Here's a number here that may surprise you, Lisa. Just 1% of U.S. companies export abroad, and small businesses account for less than a third of those sales. So the U.S. Export-Import Bank, the government-backed lender that provides credit for exporters, partnering with major banks, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and others to boost small business exports. This initiative being unveiled in about an hour here in Washington. But we're joined right now ahead of that announcement by Ex-Im Bank Chairman Fred Hochberg in a Bloomberg exclusive. He joins me here in our studio. Good to see you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for having me on the show.
The reality is most small businesses in this country don't export anything abroad. You aim to change that with this initiative. Tell me what's going to be different.
What's going to be different is Global Access for Small Business is a partnership between the U.S. government and the private sector. As you mentioned, the Chamber of Commerce, National Association of Manufacturers, banks. What we want to do is reach their customers. The President Obama made it clear we got to double exports in 5 years. If we're going to reboot this economy, exports have to be a key part of it, and small businesses have to be a key part of any export strategy if we're going to really double exports and help our economy grow. That's what today's about.
And you're going to boost your own financing for small business. Right now, it's about $4.5 billion, as I understand it. The goal is to get it to $9 billion.
I want to double, just as the President wants to double exports in 5 years, we're going to make sure that small businesses are a part of that. Double that from $4.5 billion a year to $9 billion by 2015.
And what would that mean in terms of our actual exports? What would that translate into?
Well, that's make sure that as we're on track to double exports right now. Exports year to date are up about 17-18%, growing at a faster rate than they have for many, many years. So we're on path to double exports. I want to make sure that small businesses are a part of that and are not left behind as the world becomes more global and more international.
All right. Now, I would venture to say there are probably a lot of Americans have no idea what the Export-Import Bank of the U.S. is or does. There are probably some businesses out there that don't know what you all do. You're a lender, but you don't compete against other banks. Tell me how this works, because in this case, you're partnering with banks.
Right. What we do is when you go to your local bank to either borrow money to buy the equipment or inventory to export, or maybe you have a customer overseas. Some banks are reluctant to deal with a customer in Indonesia or India or other places in the world. We'll guarantee the loan, so they don't have to worry about foreign risk, political risk. We'll give them a guarantee to induce the bank to make the loan overseas. And we have a very good track record of collecting, so we can guarantee the loan, do this at no cost to the taxpayer whatsoever. Zero cost.
You make money for the government.
We actually make money. Since 1992, we've actually returned an additional $5 billion to the taxpayers among all of our costs.
All right, let me ask you about your help for large companies as well. The focus today is small business, but you provide help to a lot of Fortune 500 companies out there. One incident that's been in the news recently is aid you're helping GE finance its bid to sell locomotives to Pakistan. They're competing against a Chinese bid that's being helped by the Chinese government in that instance. You've suggested China's not playing by the rules here. It's not an even playing field. Walk me through that. Why?
Well, all the industrialized countries for the last 35 years have agreed on one thing. Let's have products compete on their own and not make financing part of that equation. And we've all agreed to that for 35 years. China does not choose to play by those rules. China uses financing terms, lending terms below market rates to help them gain and buy business. And I think it's time we stop that. We need to make sure that we got superior products, we're making what the world wants to buy, and we want to make sure that financing is never a stumbling block to making that sale. And that's what this deal with Pakistan is all about.
Now, I know Lisa's got a question for you as well. Lisa?
Yeah, Mr. Hochberg, quick question. You're just talking about Pakistan and competing against China, but let me ask you a question that I think affects both small and big businesses as it relates to doing business abroad, and that's free trade agreements. There has been a lot of noise really coming from Main Street about the fact that we haven't been very active in signing free trade agreements. Late last year, we saw an agreement made with Korea, but many critics will say this administration has been a little reluctant to get involved in free trade at this moment, has been focused on a more domestic agenda. What is your response to that?
Well, President Obama, we've had a crisis we're coming out of. We're trying to get more Americans back to work, trying to get health care so that American companies can compete evenly, put the financial system back in shape. We had a lot of things we had to do. Free trade was certainly at the top of the list. It may not be number one, but at the top of the list. We have an agreement now with Korea. It's got to go to Congress. We're hoping to get an agreement with Colombia and Panama. So I think it's certainly critical, but you can't do everything. Can't be a number one priority. So these are important, and now we're in the third year of this administration with time to address these issues.
Do you still believe that that goal of doubling exports by 2015 is feasible? Because some people have questioned that, particularly without more free trade agreements in place.
I know people question it, but at least I look at the record. The last 10 months, we're more than doubling exports in 5 years. We're running at a faster rate. And to top of that, Peter, what makes me confident, I was in India with the president, with many corporate executives. India is going to invest $5 trillion over the next 5 years to build infrastructure in their economy. We sell the kinds of things they're buying. Airplanes, locomotives, road systems, new ports, new airports, power plants. These are the things they need to buy, and these are the things we sell. So that's what makes me very bullish on American exports and why I think we're going to double exports in 5 years.
As you help large businesses, small businesses today try and sell abroad beyond India, where do you see the greatest opportunities, and in particular maybe for the small businesses you're trying to help today?
We see a lot of opportunities in Latin America. Mexico, Colombia, Brazil are very strong markets, and we're seeing a lot of growth there. For small businesses, Canada is a great market. UK is a very strong market. Believe it or not, Saudi Arabia has turned out very strong for small businesses. India as well. We also see a lot of opportunity in South Africa. I've seen opportunity in Turkey. Vietnam and Indonesia also very, very strong markets. So there are a lot of the growth is coming from the emerging markets. That's where we're going to have to make those sales.
All right, Fred Hochberg, he's chairman of the Export-Import Bank here in Washington. Thanks for your time today. Appreciate it. Lisa, that formal announcement coming about an hour's time here in Washington, but our folks heard it first here on Bloomberg.
All right, thanks to Mr. Hochberg, and thank you very much, Chief Washington Correspondent Peter Cook.